Absolutely, and I think that begs the question of you've talked a lot about outreach and help and providing services. So, if someone were wanting to assist as well, how is the American Red Cross funded, or how does somebody like me come in and help as well? What are those avenues?
Yeah, so I always say, for me, my needs kind of change. Obviously, you can't have the services without the funding, and you don't need the funding if you don't have the services, right? So with the funding, you can always go to redcross.org/donate. You can always go online, and then you could always call our number, which is 888-684-1441, and you can talk to somebody and donate. That's if you want to financially donate, right? That's always a way to help and provide those critical services that we need. But then also, there's volunteer time, right? The 3 T's, right? Time, talent, treasure is what we tell everybody. And, I am always looking for board members to have that leadership, to bounce ideas off with, to be at that level where we're just strategizing together, because there's just so much need out there. Just to have that different outlook, people who are running companies, or
Right.
who are directors or HR managers that just see things differently.
A new perspective.
Yeah, those new perspectives are critical. So I'm always looking for that type of level for board members. And then, we always need volunteers. Our disaster action team is amazing. They're the ones that go out and respond to those fires, wrap their blanket around that family. So we're always looking for volunteers who don't mind to get dirty, right?
Yeah.
And then those analytical volunteers. Yeah. Right. Don't mind getting called at 2 a.m. because there's a fire,
Sure.
And so right now I would say those are probably my 3 most critical needs. We're always going to need funding, just like any other great nonprofit. We're always going to need board members, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until I get to mass capacity, I'm going to need board members. And then, we're always going to need our volunteers, like I said, those boots on ground that are fighting the good fight out in our local communities and helping to build our local communities, make our local communities more resilient. So that's where it's key.
That's awesome. Does our Southeast Indiana chapter, other than those 3 needs, have any specific tangible item type needs?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me that,
Okay.
amazingly, and the Red Cross does not accept tangible items.
Okay.
And there's a very good reason for this. And, people who want to do tangible items, I collaborate a lot with, for example, we had a multi-home family fire, and I collaborated with a local, they had like clothes and stuff. It wasn't like a Goodwill, but it was kind of like a Goodwill, but it was like their local level of it.
Sure.
And so we'll collaborate with those. And so all of the fire victims in this multifamily fire, there was 16 units that were involved. We coordinated, sent out communications, and anybody who wanted to donate something tangible to the families, they went into that one location, and then we sent all the families there. And so there are ways that we can coordinate that, so everybody's not just dropping things off, because we don't accept tangible items.
Sure.
And so we need to coordinate that together as a community. Community coordination is key. If not, it just kind of goes haywire. So that's one way to coordinate tangible items. But we do not take tangible items because we just can't predict what's going to happen. We want to be able to have the fluid of monies, because one family may need that medical, they may need replacement of those eyeglasses. Another family may have a baby that needs diapers, formula.
Sure.
All those things. Another may have special needs that we may need to have a particular wheelchair, or go and particularly buy a particular bed for this other family. And so we can't predict that, and so we can't make those tangible items fluid, but we can make money fluid. And so we can customize to each one of those families. And then to the disasters, right? We don't know when a disaster, where it's going to happen. It's going to come, just as a matter of when. And then we can move those monies around. Now, if the money obviously stays local, that money is restricted and it will stay local. But again, we can't even predict in Decatur County, right? Sure. Could it be a flood? Could it be a tornado? We don't know, right? Could it be a home fire? We're not sure. But you can move funds around to help with families' needs. And that is why I think, that's why we don't take tangible, but we can coordinate. So that's huge.
Perfect. So again, if people are wanting to donate finances to the American Red Cross, they can go to redcross.org/donate.
Yes, and there is a drop down there where it says I want to support, and you can put to my local chapter.
Perfect.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears just a little bit. You mentioned that you have a military background, so I'm interested. Do you have a personal connection to Red Cross work?
I do.
Okay. Would you care to share that?
Yeah, so I love our Service Armed Forces department. They have a very special place in my heart. I was in the military for 10 years. I was a military police officer.
Thank you.
And thank you. And I was in the Army National Guard, and I deployed to Iraq. And, when I was going up there, I was just running around with the guys. I ran a lot. And we were just going around the perimeter, and
Like literally running
around the perimeter.
Okay.
And I, like kind of there was this like hole in the sand that you couldn't see because it was like under. It was like, and I hit it, fell in it, flipped over. They took me to a tent, and it was just, oh, you sprang it, you're fine. So put my boot on tight, laced it up. Well, then we went north. And I remember this just because it was Christmas Eve, and we were supposed to have like this, exercise on Christmas Day, and they left, and I was stuck back at the tent, which was really annoying.
Sure.
Because I wanted to do the exercise, and so I'm here trying to make like everybody little Christmas presents, and I'm like hopping on one foot, and so I remember that it was like Christmas of 2004, and then we went up north, and just like wear and tear, 10, half, almost 11 months in, my foot just kept collapsing. So every time I tried to go out on a run or things like that, like it just kept collapsing. And finally I kept going to the med tent, and they're like, you know what, we're immobilizing your foot and you're going to Landstuhl, which is in Germany. It's the big military hospital that everyone who's injured and things like that. And this was very humbling, because I went to Landstuhl in a plane with a lot of my own brothers and sisters who were horribly injured. And so it was a very humbling experience, and I just sat there and just held the hands of, my brothers and sisters who were really, really injured. And I just felt so lucky, but then also like, why am I here? I only had a month left, I could have just stuck it out, really mad at the commander for making me go,
Right.
But then also feeling very blessed, because I was there to talk to my brothers and sisters and support them. But then when I got to Landstuhl, I got to the hospital, and I was able to, go in and see some more of my brothers and sisters and just kind of hear their spirit and things. And, whatever the doctor did was the final straw, because I heard a pop in my ankle fell, and that was it. Like I couldn't move my ankle anymore. Had no control over it. So then they fully immobilized it, and they're like, you have to go back to the States, you have to have full surgery. And I'm like, oh, great. So I was stuck at the hospital now, not going back to Iraq to meet my unit. Now I'm stuck in Landstuhl. But, now I'm just kind of in a dark moment, right? Because
Absolutely.
It's just sad. It's a very sad place. And here comes Red Cross volunteers, because we have a Service Armed Forces post on almost every single military post across the world. And so we actually are American Red Cross Service Armed Forces Mobile Specialist, actually MOB, and they will go on different posts, and they take turns and go pretty much almost anywhere in the world. And so Germany is one of those posts. And so here comes Red Cross volunteers, and they're just making me smile and, giving me cards. And they, took me to the Red Cross, in a wheelchair, took me to the Red Cross little corner to get clothes, and because you needed to wear civilian clothes. They hooked me up with some pastor that was taking, some soldiers down to Luxembourg to see where the Battle of the Bulge was. And it just was so nice. And I just remember them being so friendly and such like a down portion time, and they were just huge, and they were just so comforting. And then it just came full circle. So when I started with Red Cross, I started as a Service Armed Forces Mobile Specialist.
Very cool.
And so it was like, I know personally
Absolutely.
how this line of service really affects our military service members, and how they're there, and gosh, they are giving up at least 6 to 8 months of their lives to go to these different posts and rotate in and out. And it's a very special what they do. And so that's kind of my personal story. And I just know that, so many people have their own personal stories about Red Cross, and they just don't realize all the other things that we do. They just know their own
Right.
personal story. So
That is very cool. What a touching story. And the fact that you came out of it and back into a place where you could give back, I think is just ultra special. So again, thank you not only for your service, but for coming back into that line of work and wanting to help and assist and be part of that outreach for others. I think that's just very cool. Very
That's
cool
good.
story.
yeah, no, thank you.
Well, just to recap, we've got just a couple of minutes left. So you mentioned that there are 5 lines of services, and if I was taking notes frantically, quickly enough, I've got disaster services, blood drives, service armed line forces, international services, and health and safety services. Where do you see American Red Cross in the future? What does this look like, or what does this, I guess, what does the heartbeat of the American Red Cross look like as we move forward?
Well, as I think about it, it really is focusing on that resiliency piece. And it really is, resiliency is really helping those communities be better after a disaster, bounce back faster. And, whether you believe in climate change or not, I don't care if you think if it's man-made or you think it's natural, it doesn't matter. We just know that it's happening. And we know that our disasters are growing. 2020 was a really hard year, and we're having tornadoes in December, right? And so we can look at the data, and you can just see our disaster seasons are getting longer. Our disasters are and financially are getting more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Our seasons are starting to change. Our rainy days are getting longer. Our frozen nights, our freeze days are getting longer or
Hence
more.
this morning.
Hence this morning. And so, this is having an effect.
Sure.
On our disaster, which is having an effect on all of us. And when I think of Indiana, and I think of especially our Southeast chapter and our rural communities and our agriculture, the flooding in our agriculture, it has one of those domino effects
Right.
to everything. And I really see Red Cross really being that convener for our communities and really learning preparedness. Preparedness is such a key for the communities to be almost their own Red Cross, to be able to understand why preparedness is so key within their own communities. We have a program called Ready Rating, where it has small to medium organizations and teaches them everything about staying open, the small business staying open during a disaster as much as possible. Because when we come in, we want to buy from the local community. Why? Because that helps the community bounce back faster.
Sure.
It's those community members that get paid. We don't want to buy from outside the local community and bring in. That's not helping with resilience within that local community.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want those Red Crossers from that local community, because then they're the ones that know that CPR. They know those disaster cycle services trainings. They know how to help those communities and those families out. And so I really think just looking future forward is if we can get the communities more prepared and get to know each other, right? Get back to the old days, right? Don't just go into your garage, say hi to your your neighbors.
Sure.
Helping neighbors helping neighbors, so that when something does happen, you do go knock on someone's door, make sure they're okay. And
Right.
Because that is a part of resiliency, a part of community resiliency. And I really think Red Cross can be in that space of education and be that convener, just to really, really help with community resilience building, so that we can all face these disasters together.
Awesome. What an inspiration. Again, this is Donna Colon with the American Red Cross, the Executive Director of the Southeast Indiana chapter. Donna, final question. If someone wants to donate, we're going to go to redcross.org/donate. You said you are in need of board members, financial assistance, and volunteers. If someone needs help, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Yes, so I'm going to give you my cell phone number. It is 317-691-4046. That's 317-691-4046. And I'm just going to warn you, I'm a texter.
Okay. Well, thank you for being so, I guess, just open with not only what the American Red Cross does, but your story. It was nice for me to put a face with a name. For those of you who are listening, we do always upload these to our YouTube channel. We upload a snippet of each interview. So that's a great way for you to meet Donna as well. And again, we'll be back on the first Monday of the month in April.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Morgan.
Yep, no problem. Once again, like Dawn said, we'll be back the first month of April? May.
May.
May. We're going into May. I'm so confused on the months at this point. I believe it's May 2nd will be the first one. That's what they said, the commissioners, at least this morning. That's what they said the first
Okay,
Monday
I'll
was. So
believe
May
them. I trust
2nd,
them.
I'll trust them. They haven't led me wrong yet. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Dawn.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And that concludes today's Community Connections. Tune in on May 2nd to hear more.
Just non-stop country.
Yeah.
all
No,
I
the
feel
good
like we could have
stuff.
talked for 20 more minutes. I'm watching the time and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're 5 minutes over. That was
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. That was totally interesting. So
As long as you're done by noon, I'm good. And even then, I gotta stop. So.
Well, thank you. That was
Thank you for having me on.
so, what do I want to